Hi everybody, I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and this is episode number 11. I hope that you have been enjoying them so far. Thanks everyone for sharing, for reviewing. I want to give a special shout out to Megan McLeod and Don Marie for their shout outs on social media. Also to everyone who left a review, Mitch DP, 24 MPH11, and the Don Marie for your iTunes reviews. We're at 27. Here's what I need, you guys. I need 3 more. Are you one of the incredible people who has contacted me personally to tell me how much you love this podcast? Have you texted me, emailed me, Facebooked me, or called me? And have you, this same person, not written a review on iTunes? Then I say to you, please, make me just one review. One review from your sweet soul will be so valuable. So also just a word to you guys about asking questions. A lot of you have been sending me so many questions. If you could all do me the biggest solid, even if you are my best friend in the whole universe, if you could send all of your questions to audreyhelpsactors@gmail.com. That's audreyhelpsactors@gmail.com. It just really helps me if they're all in the same place, instead of getting some in text messages and some in emails and some in Facebook. And I'm trying to sort of handle all of them at multiple times as they sort of come to me sporadically throughout the week. What I'd love to do is to have them all in one place, all at the audreyhelpsactors@gmail.com, so that I can just go through them and answer them on air so that you guys can get as much information. So many of your questions are questions everyone has, and I just want to address that to everyone. Today we have a really great episode. We are talking to my very good friend, Christi Webb. She is a former casting director. She retired from casting about a year ago. She is agent assisting for Mitchell & Associates Talent in Los Angeles, and she brings so much really great information. I know that if you've been in this game for a while, you might feel like you know everything that casting director does and knows, but I have to tell you, she surprised me with some of her information. So I really recommend this episode no matter what level you're at. I think the perspective of somebody who's retired is really what I was looking for, because she's not worried about her job security anymore because she's out. So she doesn't say anything super negative though. She's just really real about the casting director lifestyle, about how casting directors love and want to help actors, and I think you can really take her seriously because she isn't looking to you or to this business for a casting job anymore. So what she says is really truthful and really authentic, which is why I really wanted to have her in. So enjoy the show. I hope you're on your way to an audition. Audrey helps actors because they don't know anything. That's good.
So
I'm so glad that Mike booked a job. My friend Mike Horton.
Yes, Mike. Yes. I saw you were at his wedding. I was like,
Oh,
Mike
yeah.
got married? Like, I don't really know him very well, but like,
so sweet.
yeah.
Such a good guy.
I was like, oh, sweet.
How are we doing?
Yeah.
We're live. Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and today we have
Christi Webb. Hey, guys.
Hey, boo, hey. So Christi and I, let's talk about where we know each other from.
Yes.
I think just really we met here.
Yes, we did.
But Christi is from New Mexico.
Hashtag New Mexico. True. Absolutely.
Born and raised, but you went to New York first. Is
I
that
did.
correct?
Yeah. I went to New York for 2 years after college
To pursue
something in the music industry, behind the scenes, public relations related. That didn't really pan out. So in that time, I sort of really felt that I wanted to get into casting. Our mutual good friend, Carissa, I've known her for a long time, and she just suggested to me once, probably when I was like late teens, early 20s, like, you'd be good at casting, putting people with roles and things like that. So kind of just stuck in my head.
I think that's so great because I feel like so many people would be really great at casting, but it's not something that anyone really knows about. And I actually think a lot of people who pursue sort of the acting world and all that sort of stuff would actually be really great casting directors and aren't cut out for the actor lifestyle, but would be really great at that part of it. And people just don't know that it's a job.
It's true. And it's not something that you really go to school for or anything like that. My degree is like in communications and public relations. So it's really something that you sort of have to learn by doing.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, you have just retired from being a casting director.
Correct.
That's great. So we don't have to talk about why that is if you don't want to, but if you want to.
That's fine. I mean, I don't mind. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about why you just retired?
Sure. Yeah, I did it for about 10 years and I loved it while I did it. And I think it's a job that you have to love in order to do, just because the hours are so long. It's so incredibly stressful. There's just a lot that goes along with it, and you just kind of have to love it in order to do it. I think once I stopped loving it and even liking it is when I sort of knew, okay, it's time for me to get out.
Do you feel like any of that has to do with like a market change, or just maybe like growing up a little bit, or what are sort of some factors involved in that?
It started, probably the beginning of the end was a not so great experience at an office that I was working at. And then that sort of, I think, was just sort of, like I said, the beginning of the end. And then I went back and worked some other places, and then I just still was not feeling it after that. So I think maybe just something inside of me changed, and just deciding that it's so stressful. And I think I was so over just the stress and the, things seeming like it's life or death. And it's not,
It's just casting.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
I think just, and I looked at the future and what I wanted, and, casting is a hard life, and a lot of times you don't have time for a family or, anything like that, a life outside of it. So I looked at the future as well, and what I wanted for myself in the future.
Well, I'm really grateful to have you here to talk to us about so many different things. First of all, who is it decides to be a casting director?
I don't know. I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I grew up loving movies. And more than that, I grew up loving actors. And I would always sort of know, like, before IMDb, I was sort of a walking IMDb. People would always say, who is that guy in that movie? And I'd say, oh, so-and-so. And they'd say, oh my gosh, how do you know that? How do you remember that?
Yes.
So I was always just sort of knew who they were and remembered who they were. So for me, it grew out a love for film and actors.
I do want to point out that a lot of casting directors are actually married to actors. And a lot of actors don't know that.
Right.
That actually casting directors usually have a real love for the actor and a love for that process.
Right.
It's not true that most casting directors were once actors. I think that's a thing that a lot of people think is true, but that's actually not true. I think most casting directors really actually get into it in other ways similar to you.
Right.
Sort of offshoots of a different part of a business, and then it is told to them that they would be good at it, and then they become that. But they actually have a real passion for what the actor can do, and they're part of the storytelling process. And what I think people don't understand about the casting director is that they're actually on the actor's side.
Yes. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that,
That you're rooting for the actor.
Yes.
And I know that people say, like, they're rooting for you to get the part. And that sort of is like a thing that, yes, of course, that's true. But they really are actually rooting for actors in general. Like, they're on our side to make us good, because when we do our best work, they do their best work.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there's so much about the job that is so not fun.
Taxing.
Exactly. The fun part for casting is interacting with actors, is having sessions, is finding new people that you don't know, is getting to call an actor that has gotten a job and, maybe their first job.
Yes.
On the line with their agent or whatever, and hear that reaction. So, I mean, those are the moments that casting lives for.
Yes.
And that's what makes it worth all the hard stuff, all the not fun stuff.
So I want to talk about the hard stuff.
Right.
And I also want to talk about, like, I really want people to understand, like, casting director salary, because I think there is this just general misunderstanding about that. And there is a casting assistant and a casting associate and a casting director, and we'll go through what the ranking of that is. And also if we can talk about sort of general pay ranges from that. And then how the casting director also has gaps, just like the actor does, where they're not working.
Right.
So I want to really make clear to the actor that the actor and the casting director have way more in common than any actor really has perspective of.
Well, I started out as an intern, so I worked for, which you can't really do anymore.
No, they made that illegal.
Right.
Right.
Right. So, but I started out as an intern, so I worked for 6 months for free, and I was happy to.
Okay.
Because that's how you got into it, you know, back when I started. I moved up to casting assistant.
Okay.
And I think when I came in, I think it was $600 a week, I think.
Just so you guys know.
When I started.
Before taxes. And $600 a week might sound to anyone listening in like Kansas, but $600 a week for living in Los Angeles is nothing. And the hours are very long.
Absolutely.
And those numbers haven't gone up a lot, just so people know.
My time as an associate went up from, to $700, and then, the contract negotiation, I think about a year or so ago, or maybe more. So I think now it's up to $900.
Okay.
Sometimes your casting director will supplement you if you work on another show for them, or, something like that.
So if you're doing more than one show at a time or more than one project at a time.
Correct.
So like Valco Miller has all of Chuck Lorre's shows in one umbrella. So maybe those associates and assistants are getting a base salary.
Sure.
But they may be getting an additional little bit of money for working on multiple shows.
That's correct.
Okay.
And sometimes if you work on two separate shows, sometimes you do get two paychecks. It just depends on which office you work for and how they choose to do things like that.
But wait, Christi, wait. I have to interrupt you.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you shit you didn't know about your union.
Today, for shit you don't know about your union, did you know that we as a union, SAG-AFTRA, we represent a lot of the NPR people, which I didn't know about. I don't know about you, but I feel smarter just being in the same company as them. So there. Support your local radio. Always donate to NPR. So proud to have them in part of our union. I'm so glad to be a part of them, and they are a part of us because we are stronger united. Also, I had a couple of questions of people coming back to me about what I had talked about getting cut out of your commercials. Somebody had asked me how long you have to file a claim on that. That's no more than 2 years, you guys. Don't go back further than 2 years. Don't do it. And if you're frustrated at yourself because it happened to you and you didn't know you could have gotten a ton of money, that's correct. And that's why I do this section.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Like, you don't show up to LA and get to be a casting director. That being a casting director is similar to being like a series regular actor. That's something that you've earned over years of working on lots of projects, and you were opening up your own business.
Right, correct. Yeah, it's your own business. Producers, directors, or network people are the ones that, hire you, and that's why it's so important to have a good relationship with producers.
Creatives.
Correct. If you can get in with someone, then, they'll keep you on, hopefully, and take you from project to project.
Yes, I know specifically that for commercial casting directors, I can say, people don't know, but it's actually the director of the commercial who hires the casting director.
Okay.
So that's why casting directors have relationships with certain directors, and you'll see those same directors in multiple callbacks. It's because that casting director and the director have the relationship. And then I think that is also true for studios. I know certain studios, the head of casting, so some studios have a head of casting for the studio.
Right. And
then they have a president and a vice president of casting for the studio, and then they have certain casting directors that they hire out.
Right.
And then those casting directors then hire associates and assistants.
Right, yes.
As this giant pyramid.
Right.
Okay, just so everybody knows how that works.
Yes.
So I just want the actors to have an understanding that a casting assistant and casting associate have a hard road ahead of them to promotion, just like the actor does. So the assistants that you meet at the beginning of your career are then the people who move up in their career at the same time that you do.
Yes.
So then they become associates and you become a guest star actor, and then they one day will become casting directors and you will become lead actors, or you'll become more regular actors.
Right.
So that's part of why you want to be always treating everybody at every level just the same way you would want to be treated, because the assistant is just like you going out for a co-star. They're starting, they're learning the world, they're learning the business, and they're getting their feet wet. Do you want to talk about the general duties of an assistant versus an associate versus a casting director?
You know, an assistant answers the phone.
They're sometimes looking through headshots for like co-stars,
Sometimes.
things like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, sometimes. It just depends on the office you work for. And I would say a lot of the paperwork is the associate's duty. You know, deal memos, contracts, things like that, lists.
Are you receiving pitches as an associate all day?
Yes.
Or assistant?
As an assistant, you know, obviously sometimes people want to talk to an associate or a casting director, you know. So
as an assistant, how often is it that the assistant, the lowest person on the totem pole, has the ability to bring somebody in?
I honestly think it's your relationship to the casting director you're working for.
Okay.
If there is a casting director and there's no associate, it's just you and assistant, and you have a very collaborative relationship, I would say it's probably good chances that they're going to say, if you have someone you want to bring in, let me know.
Yes.
I'll take a look. Okay. So it just depends. I would say it's less than an associate probably. But it honestly just, it's all about who you work for and your relationship to them and, you know, things like that. Yeah. And on that note, for the casting director, I would say, you know, the majority of the creative decisions come from the casting director. They're making lists, you know, interacting with the producers and the directors, the studio heads, the network executives. But it's a very sort of creative job as a casting director. I would say the casting is a really weird mix of creative and business. Paperwork. So I would say the paperwork part falls to, you know, the associate. It
has been my experience that it seems to be more of a thankless job than a thankful job as far as the accolades that are being bestowed upon the casting director. My personal opinion is that if you get the casting right, then everybody else doesn't have to do anywhere near as much work. Casting directors are also responsible for thinking outside the box.
Right.
So a writer or a director might have written something or have a vision for something, and the casting director is the person who says, you know, maybe for this role we go a little older and we make the person Asian, or maybe we cast a woman instead of a man.
Yeah, casting is usually forgotten.
And the reason I wanted to bring that up is another example that I wanted actors to really have the compassion and empathy for the casting director, that they're on the creative side with you, but then you get the job and then you get your face on for people to see, and the casting director kind of gets forgotten.
Right. Yeah, it's always so nice on award shows when actors thank
casting.
You know, casting. I always appreciated that, you know. And, you know, there's no Oscar for casting.
Right.
People have been trying for years for that.
It's so important.
The day that happens, I'll be really excited.
Let's talk about your hours, and let's talk about the work demand that is placed upon you.
Right. Well, the hours typically somewhere 9:30 to 6:30, but a lot of times if you're waiting for a script to come in or you're waiting for sides, you know, for an audition that's happening the next day, you're there later than that. Obviously, pilot season gets nuts.
Yes.
Insane.
Do you want to talk about those hours?
Yes. You know, sometimes you're in the casting office until midnight.
Yeah.
And you started your day at 9 or 9:30, you know, maybe earlier because it's pilot season.
Yep.
So you come in early to get ahead of the workload. So, and that's not for one day, that's for a week or 5, you know. So it's a lot. Yeah.
And then let's talk about your breaks.
Yeah. So we have hiatus. A lot of times, like during the filming of a show, you will have a hiatus, you know, every 4 weeks or whatever it is. You'll have like a week off. A lot of times casting works through those. And so it's not a true hiatus because we're prepping the next script, the next episode. You know, I would say the typical casting schedule is end of March, beginning of April, you're off for the summer. Okay. You have hiatus.
And how long are you off for?
Like mid-July.
Okay.
Sometimes a little later, sometimes early August.
And do you get paid during that hiatus?
You do not, no.
And what do you guys do for money at that time? As far as, do you guys go on unemployment? Do you get jobs in the summer?
Yeah, it's really up to sort of the individual. Whenever I was in casting, I would try to save up as much money as I could during the year knowing that I had hiatus coming in the summer. So it's something you sort of prepare for. And then, yes, I mean, you go on unemployment. A lot of people do choose to try to find summer jobs and work. I do know a lot of people in casting that do that. So it's sort of your preference. You know, if you can find something and you want to find something, you may be able to.
You're also, just like everybody else, you may not get a season next season. So you, just like the cast and the crew.
Well, here's an example. Okay. I have a friend who is in casting. She's an associate, and she was working on 2 shows and a pilot, and none of them got picked up.
And so she doesn't know what she's going to do for a job in the fall.
Right.
She's got relationships and all of that, but just depends on what goes where and who is getting those jobs.
Right.
Also, a lot of pilots and shows get given to new casting directors, and the casting director that was the original casting director is the last to find that out.
It's true. You know, as an actor, I know that people are out there, and as an actor, you have to hustle. You have to sell yourself. You have to put the work in. I'm sure all of you guys know that. And as a casting director, you have to do that as well. You know, if you find yourself without a show, you gotta start emailing producers, you know, directors, you know, agency people that you know, saying, can we take a meeting just to connect? Or, you know, we're looking for something. You're sending your resume out.
Yep.
You really do have to work for yourself and hustle and find something.
I just want you actors to really hear that, because as much as I can reiterate that we're in the same boat, we're all working hard together to be a part of this business. And if you're feeling grumpy one day because you had a lot of traffic and the casting assistant or casting associate or casting director isn't behaving the way that you feel like they should behave, have empathy for them and be the light to them that you wish that they were to you. Sort of give what you want to receive, because that's how you bring people into your room and get people to become fans of you. Is that if you feel like a casting person isn't looking at you, isn't giving you any energy, you just have to treat them like they're human. I know for actors, you feel like this is your one audition that you've gotten, say, this month. So it's a really important opportunity to you. And then you see outside that you're only going to do one scene. So that probably means they got it offered out. So now you're already grumpy. And the casting director, you feel like is not even paying attention to you. Just know that casting director is coming from a world of sometimes drama and chaos, and the fact that they aren't present with you in this moment isn't personal.
Right. Because like you mentioned earlier, I think, you know, casting does care about actors.
Casting cares about actors.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, what can an actor do, or what is the best course of action for an actor to do if they get into a room and they feel like there's chaos and they feel like they're maybe not being seen or not being heard? How is the best way for an actor to handle that?
I would say a lot of times be prepared even before you go into the room. I'll get to, you know, being in the room in a second, but even just going into the room, just be as prepared as you can.
Yes.
And a lot of times I know you get sides late. You get them the day before. God forbid, sometimes you get them the day of.
And just so everyone knows, that's not so that the actor gets fucked. That's because their writer's room is fucked.
Right.
And so then they give it to the casting director who's fucked. And then they give it to their agent who's now embarrassed they have to give you sides at 11 o'clock at night for tomorrow at 10 a.m. And they're embarrassed that you think that it was the agent who didn't get you those sides. So the agent is fucked. Right. And then you have 4 hours of wake time to work on sides. So you're fucked. Right. The whole system's fucked. Yeah. It's not personal.
Right, exactly. You know, just try to be as prepared as you can. If you go in the room, and I guess if you feel like, you know, you're not being heard or seen, you know, all the offices that I've worked in never has had a problem if someone says, you know, I didn't feel great about that take. Do you mind if I do that again? I've never been in an office where we said, nope, sorry.
Yes.
Bye.
Right.
You know, we always want the actor to leave the room feeling like they did the best that they were able to do.
And part of that, too, I want actors to understand that casting is also looking at the long term. You as an actor may be going out for a smaller role now, But you may become a giant name actor, and that casting director wants to keep a connection with you, wants you to have a positive experience of them, because that's a relationship that can become valuable in the future too.
Right.
A lot of casting directors are hired because of their ability to get certain actors. And if, you become a casting director of maybe a film that is going to be a good film but has a smaller budget, that casting director's relationship with that actor can then prove to be really valuable later on.
It's true. And I have a friend of mine who is an actor, Josh McDermott. You guys may know him from The Walking Dead. But he's just such a great example that hard work pays off. Because when I was an assistant working at Kazera Shevchenko, the figure skaters, I love those girls.
Them.
I know.
Hey, girls.
They're so sweet.
They're so great.
But, Josh, we brought him in on a pilot to audition for one of the series regulars. He didn't get that, but we remembered him. I think he got like a smaller role on that pilot, like a co-star. And then after that, we were working on another show and he got a series regular role because of that relationship with that casting office. He just kept working his way up, and now he's a series regular on The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So
it's really, I tell the actors in this podcast that you just have to be consistently doing the work, because most actors are not. So I actually don't think it's that hard to get a career. It's hard in the beginning because you're doing some establishing, but that's true of most careers. You're building your career. But most actors gets discouraged, and so that then makes them have a bad attitude, which makes them do less work, and they sort of go through these starts and fits of being motivated and excited because it's the new year and they're gonna and then by like the end of February they're like, I want to kill myself, and then by like June they're like, no, I'm gonna do it again, and it's this like wave that they're riding instead of just doing consistent, continual work on your career, with your relationships, with your materials. And if you do that, not only is your emotional ride going to be better in a process, but you're going to have more consistency and flow in what you receive in your career. But wait, Christi, wait. I have to interrupt you.
Help me. I need some help.
And now it's time for listener questions.
I'm so scared.
This question comes to you anonymously. This person is someone who has been working consistently in the dance world for a very long time and has done commercials and has done television stuff, but always as a dancer, and they are transitioning into becoming a theatrical working actor. This person says to me, I do have a question for you if you don't mind. I've been transitioning into acting and got a commercial agent, and it's great, but finding a theatrical agent has become a rough task and rather discouraging. Basically, none of my dance work translates over and no one takes me seriously. Do you have any advice on agent or casting director workshops I could do that may help? So I just want to say the road to good representation is a long and winding road for most people. That is because commercially, so just people have perspective off of one commercial, you can make anywhere from $15,000, which is sort of like more standard if it runs for one cycle, to several $100,000 off of one commercial, just depending on how it runs and how long it runs. Versus a television show, you're looking at $1,100 for a co-star, and that's $110 for your agent. And then once you get into series regulars, it gets a little bit better, but even for a series regular, the chances of you getting that series regular fresh off the non-credit boat is really hard. So part of why it's hard for them to take you seriously is because they don't have reason to. The only reason they have really to take you seriously is because you come with something to offer them that in a shorter amount of time versus a longer amount of time, you're going to be of value to them. They have quotas that they have to hit, and if you're not getting out and you're not booking, that's a problem to them. So the first tier that you want to be considering is it easy to get you out? That's the first thing that agents are looking for. Does it take them a superhuman effort to get you out when they submit you, when they pitch you? Do you get well received, and do you get into the rooms? The reason why you may get into the rooms easier than others is because you have a very interesting type, maybe because you come from a particular age or casting category that there's not a lot of. Maybe you have relationships with casting directors who have known you for a long time. Maybe you have a family connection or business connection that makes it easier for you to get into rooms. Other than that, you're not going to equal a lot of money to them. And so you're going to get the agent that you're really qualified for. Unfortunately, that usually means a pretty low tier agent if you're going to get anyone. And that person's going to work their butt off sometimes to try and get you in. And some of those agents are also not going to work their butt off. They're maybe going to submit you sometimes. We're talking like a handful of auditions for the year. And that's just part of why it's really hard to build a theatrical career. When people say it's a numbers game, that's so true. So as far as what you can do about it now, usually it's easier to get a manager than it is to get an agent. But generally the word on the street is if your manager is not associated with like a well-known management company, that they are not considered particularly trustworthy. This is not always true. A lot of really great managers come from bigger management companies and branched off on their own because they finally had the relationships and they had the connections, and that's a different story. So you can do showcases, performances. You know, those of you who are not sort of up to speed with the news, workshops are dead, basically. Most of those workshop places are being sued, and the ones that aren't being sued are actually have gone under to avoid being sued. Before Workshop Land existed, there used to be showcase opportunities where you like learn some sides with somebody and you go in and you do a scene. I don't know of any of those places. They sort of lost track after workshops really took over, but I'm sure they're back again. Look up showcase opportunities. Also a really good thing to do, honestly, is to just start performing because you're trying to build your value and show your value. So one way to do that is to perform regularly at any of these improv companies. Some improv companies you're not allowed to perform in until you reach like level 4. Some of them you can perform after level 1. But just know like that helps you get extroverted, but that's a long road. That's usually a couple of years before you really start performing regularly with those groups and have a reputation with those groups. Being in plays is good, but don't be in shitty plays because nobody wants to see shitty plays. But part of what's hard is like, how do you know if you're in a shitty play? I mean, you usually know pretty soon, but it's hard, you guys. Getting theatrical representation is a long road. One thing I do recommend that seems to work for people is really going to a smaller market, racking up some credit, because then what you have to offer an agency out here is a long resume, and then they have an easier way to pitch you. Now, as you heard from Lauren's experience from the New Mexico podcast, that has still not increased her numbers as far as auditioning to the degree that she wants to be auditioning. She's got really good representation, but is she going out as often as she'd like? No, she's not. So it's a hard road. And one day you get representation, and then one day you start booking a job or two, and then you get better representation, and then you book a few more jobs, and then you book better representation. And that's just sort of the long, slow haul of it. Isn't that exciting? So much love to that person. I hope that was helpful.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Who has the easiest time getting into your rooms? Is it about an agency? Is it about a reel? Is it about a look?
Thankfully, all of the offices that I've worked for have not been, I know there are some casting offices out there that will go through the breakdown and will, go to look only at certain agency submissions.
So just so the actors know, that's an option that casting directors have, is they can funnel not only which casting directors they receive submissions from, but they can also funnel which agencies get the actual submission, right?
Correct, exactly. Yeah, so thankfully, all of the offices that I've worked for, we went through everything. Yes. We went through all of the breakdowns. The submissions, the numbers keep going up.
I know.
These days on the submissions, which you guys know.
Right.
I would say, a lot of times it is obviously initially about your look.
Okay.
What are we looking for this character? And like you said, a lot of times, yes, you do think outside the box and you see someone in a breakdown and you think, they're interesting. They're not what we're looking for, but let's bring them in to try it out.
Yes. I want to just pause right there because that's so important. That's what I've been telling people throughout the whole podcast is what happens is that casting is like shopping. So if you get to an audition and you've discovered that you're a yellow day dress in a room full of all black gowns.
It happens.
It happens because you're shopping.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah.
And that's your creative part of the business.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I would say, we love having reels to look at for people. So if you don't have a reel up on Breakdown, I would say absolutely get something up. Yeah.
And let's talk about the quality of the reel. How often would you look at the reel, and if the quality is shoddy to poor, would you sort of think, nah, not now, not yet? Was it ever an indication that they weren't ready for your audition?
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
No, I think it was what the actor brought to the table.
You're really looking for is what I'm looking for in this role seen in this reel.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes there's some controversy around this, that an actor have like a comedy reel and a drama reel, or do you like to have multiple different little clips as a casting director?
You know, I feel like that sort of was like just coming in as I was going out.
Okay.
You know, having lots of different
little
little clips and things. You know, as long as there's something that we can look at if we're casting a comedy, we're going to look for comedy reels. If you don't have any comedy credits or any comedy on your reel, I mean, chances are we're probably not going to call you in.
How much of the reel would you actually be watching before you would usually be like, I'm done?
You know, we probably usually don't watch the whole thing.
That's what I tell people. I tell them like your first 30 seconds.
Put your best stuff first.
And part of why the clips, so people understand what a clip is, it's like instead of having your 2-minute comedy reel with your 5 comedy scenes, you have those 5 comedy scenes categorized as separate clips. So you would have, say, teacher, and you don't even you can have the name of the show, but I think a lot of it was more like important that the category be specific. So it was like comedy, teacher, modern family, drama, rich woman, lawyer, CSI, and those categories. So that way, because if you have on your drama reel, you know, drug addict, then desperate wife, then lawyer, then teacher. If drug addict is first because that's what you like, and the casting director is looking for teacher, then they're not going to get all the way to teacher. Right. They're going to stop at drug addict and go, not a teacher. So some of the value of the individual clips is that, but also no, I would put your best foot forward. What is the thing you're going to get cast most as?
Right.
Are you getting cast most as a drug addict? Then put that up.
Also, there's this new-ish thing called slate shot.
Right.
And I heard that if you have a slate shot that you get put at the top as well.
Because a slate shot is their service. So I'm not surprised at all that they're
you have to pay for it.
Yeah, you have to pay for it. And it's literally just an actor being like, hi, my name is Audrey Moore. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I like cats. And that's like what
right. So you
do.
They can see you slate or
it's usually
whatever.
more for people who don't have footage. Usually, so that they can like see who you are and see how your face is on camera. But I'm not surprised that they're like, if you have our service, we'll put you at the top. So that's good information. Makes me think maybe I should do it.
Right. You know, and casting directors also develop relationships with actors. And if they see you and you're new to them and they've never seen you and they like you, they will remember you and bring you back for other roles.
There's like a wives' tale, I guess you could say, that casting director needs to see you like 3 times in a row before they feel comfortable casting you, because they want to make sure that you're not like accidentally fantastic, because they don't want you to embarrass them on set or fuck up. And that might have more to do with like if it's a particular kind of role that requires a particular kind of performance.
Sure.
Is your casting director more likely to push forward to producers somebody that they know that they can trust over somebody who maybe they don't know and don't know if they can trust as much, but maybe did in the audition a little bit better of a job?
You know, I would say that who they push forward are people that did the best. If you are absolutely green and you have no credits, yes, we would probably be hesitant to put you forward to producers, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen.
Anything you want actors to know about the casting director or the casting process?
It's a smallish thing, but so a lot of times, obviously, casting is very busy, and we have our schedules exactly planned out perfectly. And a lot of times we have a lot of people that we have to see in a short amount of time. I've been noticing at least a lot of times actors will come very early for their appointment. If we have a set schedule and an actor's due at 4 p.m. and they come in at 3:15, you know, that throws everything off. If you come in very early for your appointment or an hour early, It is something that is a little frustrating to casting. And a lot of times I know you're just trying to be early, and that's great.
Maybe don't sign in.
Yeah.
They're a little early. Maybe don't sign in. Maybe just, hang out and be ready. Yeah, it's also particularly if you're getting only a few auditions a year, then when you get yours, you're so excited that you're like, I'm going to get there at 3, even though my audition's until 4:30.
Right.
And I'm going to sit there. I'm going to wait. And it's like, if you got to do that, that's great.
Yeah.
But then a good suggestion, I think, maybe is just hang out and wait until it's closer to your audition time.
Exactly. Or walk around the lot or go get a coffee or something.
And know that you're there, and then just hang out for a second and go more close to your actual scheduled time. I will say that theatrical auditions have gotten really pretty great about being on time. I know that there was a time when it was like you'd wait an hour, and that was really hard. And especially if it was a particular scene where you had to like really sit and get in the moment and all that stuff.
Right.
But I think at casting offices, I don't think I've waited more than a half hour in a long time for a theatrical audition.
It always made me really nervous in the offices that I was in. If we were running behind schedule or we were really off, like I hated to make people wait.
Yeah, I want actors to know that, because I know a lot of actors have a bug up there, but rightfully about having to wait a long time, particularly for, like I said, for certain kinds of auditions. And just know casting doesn't want you sitting there either.
No.
Now you are doing some work on the agenting side. Can you tell me what is the difference between the buyer's market and the seller's market?
It's very similar in a lot of ways, and I think my casting skills have translated favorably to the agent side of things. I look at a breakdown and an actor will come to mind sometimes from the roster and, oh yeah, great, he's perfect. So, it gives me a little more maybe insight.
Just a real quick going back to casting, you had talked about the time when maybe you bring somebody who's a little off type. Can you speak to that and how important it is for the actor to know their type? Because I know for me, I'm often brought in off type, and I have to make sure that I remember that I'm off type.
Right.
And so if I see a breakdown and I think that's not me, I have to have the courage to know that that's not me. And to bring in what I bring in, because I'm an alternate choice.
You just have to have the confidence in knowing that you bring something specific. Yeah, we've even, brought people in and they've had their agent call because they read the breakdown and they said, this isn't this person at all. And we'll say, we know, but we're bringing them in specifically. It's not a mistake. So if you do get called in against your type, just know it's not a mistake. We do want to see what you have to offer and just bring what you have to offer. Don't try to conform to, what it is the breakdown says we're looking for.
I think that's such great advice to contact your agents. I know people have such panic about their agents and having a communication with them. And I know that that's because there's a lot of really shitty agents out there who are like, well, I got you the job, just fucking figure it out. Since creating an experience with myself, with my representatives, that I'm not afraid to ask them to ask questions to casting, that has really improved my numbers. Because there are certain things that just like that, or maybe a question about the material or a question about the story, and casting is really always happy, right? To give you whatever you need to know to help you go forward.
Absolutely. I mean, we always want to answer any questions you have. Like you said earlier, we do want you to do the best job that you can do.
And sometimes too, what was in the breakdown, people don't understand, like rewrites happen in some shows so often. And so the time between you writing the initial breakdown to then you actually putting out the auditions, that breakdown can change, right?
It's true, right.
And so sometimes you'll see a breakdown and then you're getting the audition and you don't have that information. So you try to be the original, but they change their vision.
Right.
I can speak to myself. I have gotten really good about asking those questions. And every time I get the feedback, I'm always so happy. It's literally gone. I mean, even as far as, I had an audition where I had the person had to be a clown.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, listen, I will go full clown, but I don't want to freak anybody out.
Oh my gosh.
So let's have a conversation, because sometimes you got to go full clown, you guys.
Right.
Sometimes you got to do it.
Right.
And I have no pride. I will go full clown. But sometimes if you go full clown, everyone is going to look at you like you're a fucking crazy person. So I had my agents call and talk to the casting director, and the casting director absolutely was like, I'm so glad that you called. It actually was a second session that they had to have because the first session, everyone came in full clown. And when they came in full clown, it was weird. It was too much for the audition room.
Oh my goodness.
And so the casting director said, maybe a nose, maybe some cheeks. Please don't come full clown. It scares our people.
Oh my gosh. You know, a lot of times they do put out like a little note with it, but like
sometimes
obviously they didn't. Yeah, they're too busy. So please, ask.
Things happen.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And just know, like, we're all just working people here trying to figure it out.
You know, having headshots that look like you and having good quality headshots. You know, coming from casting, it's so important that you have good headshots. That's your first representation to casting.
What does that mean to you?
Not one that your friend took on his a camera. Something that's well lit, something that looks like you. Yes. You don't have to spend $3,000, but maybe spend more than $100.
Yeah, I tell people too, if you do a headshot session and your headshots are bad, you have to do another headshot session, and that's part of the business. And I know that it sucks, you guys. I had so many bad headshots, and I put them up and I used them because I thought, well, this is what I've got.
Right.
You have to bite that money. And your first priority has to be, again, new good headshots.
Right. Because that is the first thing
that
you see in casting is headshots. And then as far as tape stuff goes, I usually just try to do all their stuff.
Oh,
so people can see
all of it.
All of it.
That's really great to know. I know you just got out, but all that I hear about from especially the younger actors who are so grumpy about it is the social media situation.
As in like social media influencers or what part of social media?
What I would say that is like the rumor, which I have been told by my casting director friends is actually a false rumor. But the rumor is that all that casting and everybody cares about is your social media following. So like you're more likely to get a job if you have 10,000, 100,000, whatever followers than if you have none, but you have a resume.
Right.
And the casting directors I've talked to said that really doesn't come into play, with exceptions of maybe like a particular market where you don't know if that person's actually famous in that market. Right. And their social media might tell you, but that's like a top role.
Right.
And when it comes to like you getting a guest star, you not getting a guest star.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that doesn't really come into play unless it's like you said, a specific role targeted to a specific audience or something like that. It's sort of stunt casting. And I think they've proven that stunt casting really just does not work.
It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work, guys.
You don't get the bump that they think they're going to get.
No. No.
That's been what all the casting directors tell me. So I wanted to get that out there as like confirmation, because actors find ways to be grumpy as excuses of why they're not working, when really the reason they're not working is because they're not doing the work they need to be doing to work.
Right.
And then they latch onto something like social media and are like, it's my social media and these damn places, they want me to have 100,000 followers, but fuck them.
Right.
But wait, Christy, wait. I have to interrupt you.
And now it's time for the new show rundown.
Okay, so the new episodic show for this new show rundown that we're going to be covering today is The Good Doctor. This is an ABC television show that was picked up. It is Freddie Highmore, who is the kid from Bates Motel. He is basically like a young Doogie Howser, except not as light probably, and a little bit more cool is the way they're sort of selling it. You can find a little preview online. It's super easy to find. It shoots in Vancouver. It's cast by Kim Coleman. She also cast The Have and Have Nots. So if that was something that you were on, just know that she's also casting this show. The storyline for it is Sean Murphy, a young surgeon with autism and savant syndrome, relocates from a quiet country life to join a prestigious hospital's surgical unit. Alone in the world and unable to personally connect with all those around him, Sean uses his extraordinary medical gifts to save lives and challenge the skepticism of his colleagues. I mean, if that's not a network TV show, I don't know what is. All casting ranges. It's a medical show, so just know for medical shows, they're so great about diversity of all kinds, age, race, economic status, whatever your casting is, all that is available to you. It's shooting in Vancouver. The casting director is technically located in Los Angeles, but I'm certain because it's in Vancouver, they're going to be seeing people in New York, in Chicago, in Los Angeles. Whenever it shoots outside of one of the major markets, then it almost always is going to be casting in any of the major markets because the cost to fly you from New York is the same as the cost to fly you from Los Angeles, so they don't care. I'm sure they're taking tapes. I really recommend trying to get on shows like these because they usually last a long time, especially if you get on season 1. It goes for 10 years. You'll be getting those residual checks for the next 10 years of your life. So I highly recommend it. Just know that the smaller roles, because it's in Vancouver, aren't going to be casting in New York or Los Angeles. All those roles will be cast locally in the Vancouver market. Just keep that in mind. All right, go book that job. Book it. Get that medical drama residual check. Get it.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
What is the hardest thing about the business for you?
Probably the pressure and the stress that comes with the pressure. You know, like I said, because they treat it like it's life or death, and it's just not life or death. And so I think that was the hardest part for me.
What was the best part about the business for you?
Meeting people.
What do you wish someone had told you or managed to get you to understand when you were just entering this business?
You don't have to keep doing the same thing your whole life, you know, because I came into the business thinking that I was going to be in casting for a long time.
What is your biggest struggle right now, personally or professionally?
Oh my goodness. Probably just trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
What I want to do with my life. I've been done with casting about a year, and I honestly thought I would sort of have it figured out by now, but I think I've just been decompressing from a high stress situation for 10 years.
Yes.
You know?
Yep. It's always an emergency in casting. That's what people on the acting side don't understand is like for casting, it's like everything's an emergency.
Yes. And your job is on the line. You know, it's like if you're made to feel like if you don't do this, if you fuck this up, you're gone. Yes. We can get another casting director in here tomorrow.
You're super expendable.
You know? Yeah.
Just like actors feel the same way.
Yeah.
That's why I really encourage you to just treat your casting directors like your comrades, not like your gatekeepers, not like your enemies, not like people who don't care about you and don't want you to get the role or don't want to pay attention to you. But really, they are your partner in arms. Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, Audrey.
I always ask people they have questions for me.
You do?
I do.
Okay. What should I ask you?
I don't know.
I'm going to ask you the same as the last question. What are you struggling with right now, professionally or personally?
I have a series now. I have a career as a working actor, which is all that I've ever wanted. And so I'm sort of looking at like, oh, this is all I ever wanted. And I'm definitely coming up with the understanding I'm still going to be sort of doing, I guess the grunt work is what you would say. Like it seems to me like, oh, I see. I will still be auditioning all the time. And I was like, I listened to like the lead girls on Glow and they had to test 4 times and they came off of huge shows and all these sorts of things and just sort of getting comfortable with the grind being an everlasting thing for me. And so in that, having it be less about grinding, because I'm actually really good at the grind. I'm like really good at like getting work done, but I don't want to be grinding my whole life.
Right.
I want to be soaring.
Finding a balance.
Finding a balance is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Being less dogmatic about getting it done and more in the enjoyment that I'll never get it done.
That's awesome. There's good things ahead for you.
Thanks. There's good things ahead for you.
Thank you.
Of course. What do you have for mildly interesting?
Can I say that I'm obsessed with Journey and Steve Perry?
Please. Please.
Is that mildly interesting?
Yes, that's so interesting.
I'm obsessed, you guys. And I'm going to see Journey in July at Dodger Stadium, and I'm really happy.
How exciting is that?
Yeah, I know. It's exciting.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
the
psyched.
live music
Just
thing
obsessed.
is something that like I just never got into, but whenever I do it, I'm always like, you guys, this is amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
I love live shows, live concerts.
That's so cool.
So fun.
And you guys, she's super sober when she does them too, which is like, different from all of you.
I mean, you don't want to pay a lot of money
to
see someone and they just like pass out drunk.
Well, you don't.
I don't.
But
no.
Many do. Many, that's their MO.
Oh, man.
Let's think about my mildly interesting.
Yes.
I want to talk to you guys about Headspace app, which is a meditation app. And it's so great. I'm sure that you have, because it even tells you how many people are meditating right now. And every time I go on, it's like 25,000 people. It doesn't matter when I'm doing it, which is so great. And what's really good about it is that they are guided meditations. I think your first like 10 or 20 or something are free, and then it's really cheap. It's like $60 for the year after that. If you are scared of meditation, this is a really great place for you to start, because they start off with like these little 10 packs, and you just do it for like 10 minutes a day in these 10 packs. And the actual meditation part isn't even 10 minutes. The actual meditation part is like 3 minutes, because they're like doing explaining and stuff in the beginning, and then they like warm you into it and you get sort of more accustomed. A lot of people do it. It's really so easy. And then they have like little packs within that are also included. They have like a stress one, an anxiety one. They have a feel good one. They have like get pumped up one. They have a creativity one. So if you have like specific things that you want to be meditating on, they have certain little sections for that as well. I've been doing it. I'm on day 33, I think, or 34. They're just so light and so easy, and it just starts your day off feeling like you're doing a little something for yourself. So
that's so cool. I've actually kind of been wanting to start meditating. So
you shouldn't. And here we are.
It's perfect.
And here we are.
I'm going to try
the
it.
Headspace app. You're gonna love it. All right, everyone. I want to do a special thanks to Christi Webb for doing this podcast. It was so great to hear from her and get all this perspective. I hope that you found it informative, no matter what level of the business you're in, whether you're just starting, whether you're well in the middle, or whether you are on your way testing all the time for big shows.
Thank you so much for having me, Audrey. It was really fun. My first podcast ever.
Oh my God, it's her first one, so I'm so excited. So you guys have a great week. I hope you book all the jobs, and most importantly, don't forget your towel. Next week on Audrey Helps Actors, we talked to Buckley Sampson about branding and styling. She is a stylist for actors, though not the kind of stylist most people think about. She doesn't do like carpets and things like that. What she does is she helps you style your headshots, and she also helps you style yourself for auditions. So this is a big thing that people don't know about. When you just wear your crappy ass t-shirt from your headshots, you're just going to get a crappy ass t-shirt headshot. How you style yourself in your headshots is part of the marketing that's going to set you up for your actual casting, to get really specific with your casting without looking like you're in costume, which is a really fine line. She also will go to your house and help you pick out certain audition outfits for certain specific casting categories. Like, what is your mom outfit? What is your doctor outfit? What is your teacher outfit? What is your I'm just broke as a joke outfit? Whatever your needs are, she helps you sort of figure out your casting, your categories that you need to have very clear outfits on. This is super helpful, especially for people who are completely clueless when it comes to these sorts of things, or if you're just really busy. I know a lot of moms and dads out there who are working actors. They don't have the time to put a perfect outfit together, so it's so helpful to them to have somebody who's like, here's this outfit, here's your doctor, here's your secretary, and they just always know they wear that whenever they play secretary. So I really recommend it. She's so good at her job. It's going to be such a great episode. So look forward to it. The show is produced and edited by Jesse Lumen. He is a writer, director, producer, and virtual reality genius and wizard. If you are creating a current virtual reality experience, please look him up and get in contact with him, because he is on it. Special thanks today to Christi Webb for being so helpful, being the most wonderful human being I've ever met. I mean, she's up there. She's just such a beautiful spirit. And she's single and ready to mingle. So look her up. Also, special thanks to Allison and Anastasia for getting me in touch with some Atlanta connections. I found a really great couple who has just moved from Atlanta to Los Angeles. They have been working in this other market for 8 years. We're going to have them both on. We'll have a male perspective and a female perspective, and they're going to talk about what the Atlanta market looks like and how it's been transitioning to the Los Angeles market. So if you are considering moving either to or from, that'll be a nice episode to look forward to. Also, special thanks to Thomas Snodgrass for the mic assistance and providing us with an extra mic here and there. And special thanks to Aalok Mehta for all of his help and work on the theme song. Music this week by Ari De Niro. Most importantly, don't forget your towel.